made it.
Can you hear me now, David Lee Scales?
Yeah, sorry for keeping you waiting.
No worries.
All right, I'm going to play a call to open up today's show.
Kelly Slater not naming her kid or wanting his kid to be part of the process is a throwback to Adam Sandler's great Big Daddy, where the kid names himself Frankenstein. So, take that as you will.
𝐂𝐫𝐢 Street apparently as well named herself.
Boom. There we go. There are two. Big Daddy's Boy, Big Daddy's Boy is a twin. Who did he become again? Did he become an actor of note or just I think he became a Disney actor, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
think he and his brother had a show on Disney.
did they get busted for sexual improprieties?
I don't keep up necessarily with Disney kids' careers, but I have no idea. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't.
Uh, Also, though, 𝐒𝐫𝐢 Street, phenomenal name.
I don't know.
So between Frankenstein and 𝐒𝐫𝐢, you know, like to doubt the greatness of Kelly Slater, I guess, is just to get yourself into big trouble.
It
And
was your fault.
so, yep. And so when Kelly's boy names himself Mud Puddle Slater, I'll say phenomenal name.
You know, the problem is 𝐒𝐫𝐢 doesn't know how to spell peekaboo. She
Yeah.
spelled it like PICABO maybe instead of
Yeah.
PEEK-A-BOO. So that's a problem. Creative kid, dumb kid.
Yeah. It's
She
true.
was creative. She was just dumb. So
It's
that's the
true.
problem with letting your kid handle it.
Man, oh man. Did you see Kelly Slater yesterday? Speaking of, thinking of boys' names while sitting at the bar next to Stace Galbraith at the Fiji Open Pro, whatever it is.
Don't go where you're going to go.
What? Where am I gonna go?
Shouldn't he have been at home with his newborn child?
Oh no, I wasn't even gonna go.
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't going
Okay.
there at all.
Well, I mean, he lost the event and then what's he doing still hanging out in Fiji? I thought
Sitting,
that's where you were going.
no, but he's sitting at the bar in Fiji, right? Like any expectation that Kelly Slater is not going to be part of professional surfing moving forward,
Yeah.
is completely ridiculous. That man loves professional surfing more than you or I love our families. He loves professional surfing so much that no greater love has the world seen since for 2,000 years. Kelly Slater's love of professional surfing, which
This
makes me
this is
think,
a this is a theme we could go on.
yeah.
Like the great loves of all time. It's like Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. I don't know who.
We could literally stack Kelly Slater's love of professional surfing up against any great love story. Romeo and Juliet, Kelly Slater beats it.
The
Kelly
Notebook.
yeah, Notebook smashes it. Kelly Slater is all of it. Any great love story, Kelly Slater is and his love of professional surfing. There he lost the event. He's sitting at the bar next to Stace Galbraith, knowing probably he's going to get some screen time or hoping that again he can just be in professional surfing once more, which made me think that Kelly Slater full on he won't buy it, but 𝐊𝐥𝐿𝐷 will give tax write-off, give the WSL to Kelly Slater at some point.
Yeah. Well, the day image that you're talking about, I believe, was the day after he lost. So it wasn't like he
Yeah,
lost
no,
earlier in the day and now he's hanging out at the bar to
I
like
know.
wash it off. It was the following day. So he could have caught
Following
a
day.
plane home in that time. Well,
Could have gone
officially,
surfing
this is,
somewhere else. Could have done anything.
yeah, yeah. Officially, this is the grit. He is Chaz Smith. I am David Scales. It is August 23rd, 2024. And if you didn't guess already, we are in the middle of the Fiji Pro. Kelly Slater lost. He had a wild card into the event. He lost and did not mention anything about retirement, by the way.
No, of course not. I mean, he knows better, I think now. I think he knows that uh he doesn't know better. That's the thing. So Kelly Slater, for those who did not watch the Heat, he got manhandled completely by Yago Dora, right? An in-form Yago Dora looking smooth and graceful, picking
Yeah.
the right waves, which, okay, I got a hot take for you here, David Lee Scales.
Mm,
Ready for this?
I love a hot take.
You know how people talk about like, was Michael Jordan better than Kobe Bryant? Was Kobe Bryant better than whoever the star is today?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then you can have this kind of, I don't know, this debate about different eras, except the arc of human athletic ability is gone so far up, right? That I think that it's absurd to say Michael Jordan in his prime would beat an in prime, whoever today's big star is. I don't even know who to compare Michael Jordan to in today's NBA, but let's just say, I don't know, Joker, Djokovic. It's just like these guys have developed there's like humans are just get better, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
watching Yago Dora made me think that in-form Kelly Slater, peak 1998, say, or when was Kelly's peak, do you think?
Great. I mean,
He had a long plateau of a peak there,
yeah,
but
you could say late 90s, like 97, 98, or you could go mid 2000s when he came back.
I'm going to say that Yago Dora today could beat that version of Kelly Slater. Like today's Yago is better than that version. And we have all these memories of, the Andy and Kelly battles and stuff. I watched the WSL likes to throw it back to the vault mid-contest so that you miss a lot of waves to watch waves from 20 years ago. But watching 𝐂𝐤𝐝𝐿 surf cloud break and win the event, anybody, the bottom guy on today's tour could beat 𝐂𝐤𝐝𝐿 out at cloud. I mean, the only person who couldn't beat 𝐂𝐤𝐝𝐿 at cloud break is Filipe Toledo.
It's an interesting thought exercise to do. My brain just goes to, well, Yago couldn't be Yago today if Kelly wasn't Kelly then.
Obviously, I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
course, they're standing on each other's shoulders, but I'm going to say between diet, between board, science, between whatever, and the stuff they've watched, the stuff exactly watching Kelly and incorporating
Yeah.
Kelly into them, but then surfing. So yeah, watching Yago surf that wave or just smash Kelly, and thinking, yeah, Yago would have beat prime Kelly too. Like it's just the way things go. Like, and Kelly has sat through this whole progression, but Kelly slapping the water in disgust at the end made me think the only person who doesn't realize that you can't do it at 56 years old, Kelly. You can't do it at the 54 years old that you are. Is the only person who doesn't realize that is Kelly Slater.
It was shocking to see him in that heat. He did look out of sorts. He looked uncomfortable on his feet. He had bad wave selection. Like it was a lack of confidence on the waves that he was riding. It was very unlike Kelly Slater.
I mean, but it's very like today's Kelly Slater, right? The balance
Yeah.
isn't there. Like none of it's all fades, right? But Kelly, it hasn't faded to Kelly. Kelly is still in his mind. And again, I think exemplified by that water slap.
Yeah.
Kelly slapped the water in disgust. And it wasn't, man, I should have thrown in the towel a long time ago. I should have done the classy thing like Carissa Moore and walked away. Wasn't that disgust? It was disgust at, oh, I just didn't surf up to my potential. Where I think you've fully surfed up to your potential. That is your potential now.
Right. Yeah. Well, also, obviously, there's huge implications in this event for the final 5 day at lowers. So people will have a shot at a world championship or not based on their result in this event. Italo is sitting in the top 5, but lost to Baron Mamiya early in the event. So he leaves the door wide open for Yago and Gabe. Gabe eventually lost yesterday as well, but he made it, I think, one round farther than Italo.
But
But
Gabe's out, I think, officially.
I think Gabe's out officially with that loss. So basically, he's left the door open for Yago.
Yeah.
Ethan Ewing is still in the event as well, so he could leapfrog a spot or two. Um, John's locked in. Griffin Colapinto's in second, locked in, and then Jack Robinson's in third currently, also locked in. But those rankings can shift basically. But those guys are locked in to the top 5 at the bare minimum. My thought on Italo was the guy is so rambunctious, and it just doesn't translate to cloud break. You
Yeah.
see him that Tasmanian devil level of energy. It looks sparky, and you're like, wow, it's smart to get busy in a heat. But there's just something about Ethan Ewing drawing long lines on the open canvas versus the snapping motions of Italo that I really think sets, certain surfers apart. Like Italo has the talent. It's just the way he chooses to apply it doesn't translate on world-class waves.
Or world-class waves that are drawn out, right? Like Italo is a spark plug and that doesn't translate to J-Bay or to Cloud Break or to, I don't know, I think other long running waves
Yeah.
where they you need to have some time and where that's just not Italo's style of surfing.
It's you can't deny it when you're watching it. Like when he even at J Bay, when he goes and like cracks the lip with all that fire and energy, it looks so impressive until you see Ethan Ewing on the next wave. And Ethan is applying, it's just it looks almost wrong, in fact.
I mean, I wonder if 𝐂𝐤𝐻 could incorporate sort of a long flowy thing into his bag of tricks. Like
He just
it's
needs
something
to
he could
settle
learn.
down. He easily could. He has the talent to do it. He has the boards. He has longer boards he could ride. He just needs to, I think, recognize maybe the value of the 𝐂𝐤𝐝 that came before him and stand on his shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, man, the 27 waves ridden between Baron and 𝐂𝐤𝐻 in that heat is a wild number to think about.
Crazy. Totally
Yeah.
crazy. Well, Gabriel Medina got the highest score of the day, but then lost to Griffin Colapinto. Griffin seems to have Gabriel's number, actually. I would be curious to see their stats versus one another because I feel like maybe Griff beats him. But what's interesting to me is that Gabriel Medina often is the best surfer in the event. I would argue he's been the best surfer in this event. I would argue he was the best surfer at the Olympics, even. Yet, consistently posting eights and nines does not net a win in our surfing contest format.
I mean, I would go further and argue that Gabriel Medina is currently the best surfer in the world. Uh, I think that people would come screaming back at John, but I think Gabriel has a more complete game than John Florence.
See, I
Uh,
think I would argue that John does. What
has
was
a more
that?
complete game. I have no idea. I'm so sorry. I thought I was silent.
Oh no, I just saw a black like the screen went totally black for a
Oh yeah,
second.
I think a call came in.
No big deal.
But
Well,
you
we
think
don't need to
John?
have the interesting. We should have had this debate at lowers. Like it would have
Yeah,
been phenomenal to see Gabriel. I don't know how he didn't make it through. Like, I mean, if you watch the heat, he didn't deserve to make it through that heat. I just think there is something significantly flawed beyond all of the things that we've discussed being flawed with professional surfing format to where he is consistently the best surfer in an event. And it does translate to wins off. I mean, he has won tons of events, obviously, but there's plenty of times where it doesn't, just because there's so many undefined variables that are left to chance that end up sniping him.
I mean the problem with the World Surf League and their ill-begotten Final Five day, right? Or finals day. Uh, Again, I mean, I guess to their credit, we're talking about it now as a real thing, but they tried to manufacture drama at the end of the year. Um, we're left with such a weird bag of kind of anti-drama where if you're going to manufacture drama, then you got to figure out how to get the best surfer that everybody knows is currently the best surfer kind of into your thing, right? Not having Gabriel in finals day, and of course they'll say, well, because the cards fell as they fell. Except, no, they didn't. Like this thing is all arbitrary and weird and manufactured. So you made a bad thing that now the best surfer, one of the most interesting surfers in the world, won't be participating in. And whoever there is at the bottom of the draw, Yago, I'd really want to see, but I don't
Yeah,
need to see Ethan Ewing again at Trestles, to be
I
quite
do.
frank. Yeah, I mean, nothing against Ethan, but like he's been there. He runner up last year.
I don't, I think, I forget. I think he
I mean,
was.
do you care? It'll come
He
down.
was, he was in my mind almost the best surfer at lowers last year. Felipe
Yeah,
kind of got him, but I feel like Ethan's surfing at lowers last year was insane, and I would love to see it again.
I mean, he was great. But I've seen it, and like I don't think he's going to do anything new there. It was fine. It was good. I guess the only interesting part about Jack Robinson, I don't need to see at lowers. I mean, they really screwed up by making it lowers, but the only thing I'm vaguely curious to see is Griff v. John, and Griff is going to have to beat him twice out of three times in order to uh, take the title.
Yeah. For the record, Ethan Ewing did finish second to Felipe last year. He
Yeah.
went into lowers in third position and then ended up in second position. So yeah, I'm all for. I love Ethan. I want to see him at lowers. So I disagree with you on that one, but I agree. Felipe or Gabriel would almost be a lock for the first or the second position if he ended up at lowers. But Yago Dora presents a real interest at lowers as well because he hasn't been there. He absolutely could win there. His style, his element of that's the extra element that he has over his Brazilian contemporaries, Gabriel and Italo, is just that element of style is really, really polished and nice to see.
Watching Iago's come up, like, I think Iago is not even a dark horse, but is a very real title contender for next year. Like the way he surfed, like kind of putting it a bit together at the start of the year, but it feels like it's really come together for him the whole back half.
For sure. So he has Jack Robinson in his quarterfinal heat, which may run today at Cloudbreak. Jack Robinson's already locked in for the finals day, so there's really nothing for him to lose. But Iago, everything's on the line here, so that'll be interesting. One of the huge storylines coming out of yesterday's event was Tatiana Weston Webb's no make barrel that they gave a 6.17 to. I watched this in real time. I thought this was controversial. Stab Magazine embraced it and did a poll online asking people what they thought. They then posted an article and got Jake Patterson to comment on his thoughts and also Matt Myers, another surf coach, to comment. Jake Patterson, I think, was coaching Tatiana Weston Webb, so he had some skin in the game with his commentary, but Matt Myers did not. What are your thoughts? Did you see this wave? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, but I did not see the wave. Was it a clear non-make, or
It
was
was a clear non-make. Yeah. So specifically and traditionally, surfers do not get scored for not making waves, barrels, airs, whatever it happens to be. But there's been kind of this bubbling up conversation about people who really do a lot of work to make a barrel and then just barely not make it. Like they get clipped at the end, let's say, but they did, let's say 8 points worth of surfing up until that point, and then just don't make the barrel. Now, you can take if you took a different example of somebody who did 8 points worth of surfing, let's say at lowers, where it's a bunch of turns, maybe they land an air or two, and then they fall at the end of the wave, they still get the 8 point score. They just don't get the final 2 points that they would have gotten if they would have finished the wave, let's say. So the argument here is that Tatiana Weston Webb did 8 points worth of barrel riding. Like there was multiple sections she did, and then she had a really sick drop, double hand, like arm barred kind of on the bottom turn to get up into the position, then started pumping, made multiple sections. And then the end section just kind of didn't allow anything. It didn't allow an opportunity for her to escape. So the judges decided to reward it and they gave her a 6.17. Watching it, I personally felt that was it was an accurate score, and it was also a good move for the judges to start scoring things like this. The argument against it, of course, is they've never scored barrel rides in the past. There's people who nearly got a 10-point ride at pipe or backdoor, famously multiple times.
1.2.
And then, they get a 1.2 because they didn't make it out of there. So what are your thoughts on this? And is it a good move for the judging? Is this progression for the judging, or is it an insult to everybody else in the past who never got scored?
I think it's an insult to everyone in the past who never got a score, and an insult to surfing and to the fan at home. I feel that that's one of the clear surfing is all subjective, right? Judging it is all subjective. The one thing that's kind of objective is barrel riding, both depth and making it, right? And I think that should be kind of sacred. You should just leave that alone. It's unfortunate if you did a bunch of work in the barrel and it was the best barrel ever and you just barely came off the end, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? Like it's always been that way. And I think that's why contests at Pipeline, at Chopu, at Cloudbreak, when it's barreling, are, I think, more intriguing, because there is a level of objectivity. You can get deeper in a barrel and you can stay longer in a barrel. And this is not just a judge liking this turn versus that turn, or, there's a real, I don't know, it's black and white, that more black and white, that. And I think to mess with that is dangerous.
I think I would have felt that exact way in so many barrels that I've seen ridden and not made. But for some reason, the amount of work that Tatiana Weston Webb did in that, and then seeing the score in real time, I thought it was the correct score. I think the judges are going to catch a lot of flack simply because, the history of not rewarding that sort of a thing. but I think it is high time that things like that do get rewarded. I think there's other versions of the barrel even where people could just drop in, stand there, not make it, and that deserves a 2 point ride. But the amount of work, like I said, that Tatiana Weston Webb did, I think was distinctly better than her competitors doing 3 turns on an open face lesser wave. You know what I
It's
mean? Like if it ends up being that she doesn't get scored for that, and so the girls take note and they go, well, I'm just going to stick to turns then and get a 5 point ride and make sure I make it through the heat. I think that is regressive. So I think there needs to be some sort of an incentive to try to make a otherwise, unmakeable barrel, because it's going to lead to success.
I mean, sure, but it's odd that if the World Surf League did not issue they give their judging, I think, criteria to the surfers each morning or each day before the event. And if they did not say we're going to score unmade barrels, uh, imagine you're in that heat with Tati thinking, well, you've changed 40 years of competitive surfing judging right in my heat.
I
And
know.
what am I supposed to do with that? Like, you didn't warn me, you just did it.
That's the problem. It really opens up a lot of criticism of the judging. Um, Certainly the tradition and the history of judging and the way that they've implemented it. But even, like I said, what if you don't complete a other ride where you did a bunch of turns and didn't finish it? Like, are we just not scoring all uncompleted rides at this point?
No,
There's
because a
just a lot
barrel's
that
different
comes
though.
with
A
it.
barrel is different.
Yeah, it
I
is.
mean, if
It's
if if
undefinably different.
if Tati, again, I didn't see the way, but did she do a bunch of turns before getting barreled, or it was all in the barrel, her work? Yeah,
It was, yeah, she did a bottom turn into the barrel, but yeah.
I think if your work is in the barrel and you don't come out of the barrel, then again, I hear you that let's figure out how to reward or how to get them to try more to do that, which I think you could score barrel makes higher, right? Where it's worth it to give it a shot, to get an 8 or 9 rather
Yeah.
than a 6.
The other thing is, with this specific wave, you could almost break it down as multiple barrels because there was multiple sections. So it's almost like she didn't come out and then um, readjust and pick a new line, let's say, but it was multiple sections. She was in it the entire time, but you, as like a critical thinking surfer, you can absolutely say she made 3 sections of that, and then she didn't make the fourth section, so the 6.17 was assigned for the 3 sections she did make. That's kind of the argument.
Slippery slope, I think. I
It's
think
super slippery.
leave well enough alone. That's one's a clear one. You make a barrel, you get a big score. You miss a barrel, you don't get
Yeah.
your big score.
Yeah, interesting. Well, lots going on in surf news this week. Is there anything else you wanted to say about Fiji before we move on?
The last thing was JP Curry pointed it out in his beautiful rap today about how bad Surfline blew the call.
I
Like,
know.
this is their job. And I mean, JP writes about it all, but I was there for the whatever opening bell where they were talking to the head forecaster for the region, who's been the head forecaster there for 20 years for that region, and they fully muffed the call. I don't know how you blow something like that's. I guess it either Surfline should say, look, all this, there's some science here, but there's like 50%. It's just like random. We just pretend that we can know so we can sell you something, or we totally messed up the science
It
because
is shocking.
it's shocking. Yesterday was a great day of surfing, or up until the wind chewed it, and they had no idea it was coming.
Yeah, the day before, they did not have forecasted until the night before.
Yep.
The night before the swell started showing up, and they're like, oh, well, tomorrow might actually be a go day. And
Yeah.
then they wake up and they thought it was going to be 4 feet, turned out to be 6 to 8 feet. And then they thought the following day, which would have been yesterday, was going to be not as good, turned out to be better.
Insane. It was an insane absolute muff of their entire job.
I know, their entire business.
Yeah.
Well, huge week in surf news. Bethany Hamilton was on Tucker Carlson. Julian Wilson announces a comeback. Carissa Moore is pregnant and was pregnant when competing at the Olympics. Ivanka Trump at Surf Ranch posts an incredible clip. Me at Palm Springs Surf Co. Monday night. Stab Magazine leaving us out of their survey. Where do we begin?
Is Palm Springs back up and running?
It's up and running. It's not open to the public.
Okay, but waves shooting out to the lucky few.
Very lucky, very few. There was 10 of us. We got the invite over the weekend. It was kind of last minute, but it was freaking 105 degrees there. I mean, it was 100 degrees at 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Like it's so hot. And so, as you know, this is Tom Lockfeld's wave lock technology. It is the first time that it's been built at full scale, and they've run into some mechanical issues. And they were slated to open in January, almost a year, 9 months ago. Sold spaces actually to people, and then were unable to fulfill that. Um, Speaking to them there on site, they're like, look, people understand, like we can give them their money back and they understand. The problem is when they book an airfare or an Airbnb or something like that and they can't get their money back. So we don't want to make that mistake again. And so we are going to really have everything dialed before we actually announce that it's going to be available. But ultimately, with 110-degree weather during the day, they have a hard time still running it all day long. So they ran a 4-hour session in the morning. I think it was like 8 to noon. And then our session was 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So they didn't have to run during the hottest hours of the day. And the problem is that Lockfeld's design is that the water is the cooling agent for the mechanics of the machinery, the machinery itself, but the water's 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So it's not doing an effective job cooling. It's not actually 100, but it is 90, let's say.
Did it feel like surfing in a hot tub?
Thankfully, the week or when we were there wasn't that bad. It was actually had a little bit of refreshing quality to it, but the guys there said 2 weeks prior it was not enjoyable to surf in. It was too hot.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad that it's back up and running and cannot wait for that thing to get I know that it will get fixed at some point and cannot wait to surf it.
For the record, it's fixed. It's fully usable. It's just I think they're going to have to figure out a alternative cooling method or a way to cool the water in the back for the mechanics. The pool itself doesn't necessarily need to be cool, but as the water flushes back into the mechanics, maybe figure out a cooling method there. If they want to run all day in the middle of summer. I think that they can run all day in the middle of all the other seasons. It's just a matter of whether they could pull it off in the summertime, or maybe they just, do a half a lay day in the middle of the summertime and all the other amenities are open. And that's the other thing. The restaurant was open. The food was phenomenal. The drinks are phenomenal. They've opened, I think, for like Coachella and stuff like that to be able to use all those other amenities. But I will say the wave itself is so much fun.
Yeah.
I honestly have not been this jazzed up since I was a kid going to Disneyland.
What board did you ride?
There's a surfboard shaper in San Diego called Blackbird. Tim Crozier is the guy's name, Blackbird Surfboards. And he has a twin fin model that the outline kind of looks like the 𝐂𝐤𝐿𝐴. And it's a twin fin and it's super stable and easy to ride. And so I just went with safety and security and stability and it worked great.
Would you do that again, or would you pull out the high performance shortboard?
I think I've surfed enough wave pools and blown enough waves to realize I don't want to overestimate my abilities. I want to go with safety and stability. So that's what I did, and it was a good choice. But I did finally feel very comfortable out there. And so to answer your question, yes, I would level up to a high performance shortboard on my next trip.
Bam. Well, we can segue right into Ivanka Trump at the other surf pool.
Did you see the clip? I know you're not on Instagram anymore.
I saw it via 𝐒𝐥𝐵𝐺𝐸. I actually didn't see it. I just saw a still.
I frame grabbed as many still shots as I could as I was watching the clip because I meant to send it to you. I don't think I did, but just that image of her stance is so funny.
It's really fun. I mean, my favorite part of at least the stills, I guess I did see the clip, was Raimana, the way Raimana kneels behind. I mean, and anybody who's been to Surf Ranch has seen that with their very own eyes when the beginners hit it. But man, that dude's ability on his knees to like stay, like knowing that Ivanka is a weird giraffe who's like, what a weird, like what a strange stance she has. I don't, it's like an inhuman stance. It's like an alien when surfing.
It's the stance that you would um it looks, I mean, like they'd build a statue. Like if you said this is how a surfer should, I guess it's when you're getting surf lessons on the beach somewhere. That is the stance that the beginner who's never actually been in the water takes. They get on
Yeah.
their board, they put their arms out completely straight and, squat, like whatever. It doesn't tend to work in the water. I guess maybe at Surf Ranch it worked for her riding a big soft top going
Yeah.
straight on a soft wave, but it doesn't work otherwise. You need to have a little bit more flexibility and responsiveness to what the ocean's providing.
It's funny to me that Ivanka Trump is like, to me, a real symbol of what modern surfing is I think she talks about loving to surf. Uh, which podcast? Lex Friedman or whatever. I can't
Yeah.
remember which one, but
Yeah.
she really went into loving to surf. The only times I've ever seen her surf is either wake surfing, behind a boat in Florida or whatever, or at wave pools. And I think I've seen a couple of her like basically getting pushed in by an instructor in somewhere Florida, soft wavy. But so surfing to her is, and probably to a lot of people, is riding a wave, and it doesn't matter what that wave is. The wave could be a wake, the wave could be Kelly Slater's pool, whatever. But I'm surfing because I'm standing on a board.
So with the epiphany, one of the epiphanies I had this week at the wave pool was you're right. There's a new version of a modern surfer that has, financial resources where the ultimate luxury in surfing is to not be around crowds.
Yeah.
And so you can go to certain parts in the world still, you know, the Caribbean, there's certain parts that are is super expensive to go to where there are waves and then you can surf by yourself. You don't have to deal with crowds. And that's exactly what I think Ivanka's doing is why not just go surf Kelly Slater's wave pool? Why not do what I did on Monday? I got more waves than I get in a month at home in one day, in 3 hours ultimately. And you really get to practice. Like that was the fun of it was getting a wave, doing something marginal, and then thinking, okay, this is how I improve it. And then 90 seconds later, you're trying it again. And you make that incremental adjustment. Then you get 90 seconds later, you try it again. And so I mean, she can really have a phenomenal surf experience, even in the ocean. Like it doesn't have to be in wave pools just by eliminating the crowd and getting repetition in.
But I like surfing to her is not what it is to you or I, right? So when I think of surfing, I think of waxing up the board, throwing in the car, driving down to the
Yeah.
beach, or riding a bike down to the beach, paddling out, sitting, catching some waves. Da, 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 da. Surfing is only to her, I feel, the act of sliding some sort of either wake or wave. Like it's
It's pretty
not
fun. It's super
it's
fun to
great.
do.
I mean, no,
Yeah.
she like, but I feel a lot of people are doing that, and you can do that now. You can
Yeah, you can.
scientifically remove all of the rest of surfing from the up and riding part and only do the up and riding part.
I know. It's crazy. That
Yeah.
is the modern world for the rich people.
Yeah. You can
I
up and
mean,
ride. It should be
and
called
to
up
be,
and riding, not surfing.
uh, I mean, if you had enough resources, you could build one of those pools in your backyard.
But I wondered though, too, again, back to what I think of surfing. I know this is a full retrograde thing, but the surf experience is all of that, right? It is not only is it that the up and riding part of surfing is, of course, the funnest part. It's the cherry on top of, but an also pretty fun Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, Bethany Hamilton on Tucker Carlson. Did you watch this?
I did not. I read Derek Riley's. Yeah, did Beth go into all kinds? Did she go far afield, or did she mostly stick with anti-trans and women's sport thing?
I can't watch it either. I tried to watch it this morning. I didn't even know that it happened. I don't keep tabs on Tucker Carlson or Bethany Hamilton, but prepping for today's show on Beach Grid, I saw it. So I pulled it up and I started watching it. She's hard to listen to. Like I like Bethany as a person and I like stances that she's taken on things in the past. I kind of like what she's about, but she's just I don't know if she was nervous.
No,
She
it's her
couldn't find
voice.
she couldn't
It-
find her words, her
yeah,
cadence of speech. You
that's
know,
Bethany. That is Bethany Hamilton. I
is
mean,
she is she unintelligent?
I don't think so. I mean, I think she certainly sounds unintelligent, which is a bummer for her. I don't think she is. I think she thinks critically about things. I've spent time with her a bit, and I never, you're not under the impression when you're around her that she's a dumb person. Uh, I was very much under the impression that she sounds like a dumb person.
Okay. It's
Like
unfortunate.
it is. I mean, it's a combo, I think, of growing up in Hawaii. She has that real surfy, lilty voice. And then, is just, yeah, it's a rough one. It's rough to listen to her.
It's like she's slightly choosing the wrong words, and
Yeah.
but it's almost every sentence. She's slightly using a word that should have been something else. And then I'm like getting caught up in that. So, and the unfortunate thing is Tucker Carlson also comes with his own baggage. Just, as a, I'm not a fan or not a fan. I never really paid attention. Says some crazy ass things, but I'm not sure if it's just to make headlines, or whatever.
I
So
mean, Tucker,
I was willing to give them both a shot. I tuned in and pretty quickly I was like, there's no chance I get to an hour of this. I'm going to have to read Derek's summary of it.
the problem is, again, nothing again for those who like Tucker or those who don't like Tucker. I'm not talking about Tucker, nor was I talking about Bethany's intelligence. Tucker sounds like a retard. Damn it. Uh,
2 weeks in a row, dude.
Tucker sounds, I really dislike when he gets really high. Like Tucker is very difficult to listen to as well. Like
Yeah.
he'll throw the high pitch, like which, and I know Tucker's, whatever, smart. I mean, he went to, where did he go? Yale or something. I don't know what he did. But anyway, both of them have, which is a funny thing, I suppose, when we think about this life. Sounding bad is a cross to carry. Like you could be the smartest person, the most well-intentioned, the most thoughtful and, practical, whatever great qualities. If you sound like Bethany Hamilton, it's going to be really hard for anyone to listen.
What's a bigger cross to carry? Sounding dumb and being smart, or looking, I don't want to say ugly, but like looking, I don't know what, not looking good. Let's say looking repulsive,
Yeah.
even worse than ugly, and being, intelligent and a sweetheart. But nobody's gonna get into that layer just because you come across looking a certain way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The Bethany cross seems a heavier burden to me to sound really dumb, to sound really profoundly stupid is, and
It's
again, dear listener, I'm not saying that Bethany is, but you feel free to go listen to her, talk to Tucker Carlson, and then come back with that she doesn't sound dumb. And I'm not saying what she's saying sounds dumb. I'm saying her
yeah,
voice sounds dumb.
no. So interestingly, this all relates. This seems like you and I are having a superficial conversation, but it actually relates to the bulk of the story here because I wasn't going to watch based on what I already said. So I go into Beach Grit and I read Derek's summary of it. And I got some interesting stuff out of that, which we can discuss. But then I go down to the comments section. And the comments were so vitriolic and strong, like very, very strong opinions about Tucker Carlson and his politics and whatever, and Bethany Hamilton as well. Like very strong about Bethany Hamilton, kind of on both sides. But I was thinking, I don't think anybody watched this whole video.
Yeah.
Everybody came into it with preconceived ideas about these two figures. And a lot of their preconceived ideas are based on exactly what you and I are talking about, because I'm not sure that they've ever listened to anything long form about either of these people. They take kind of the artifice that you and I are discussing exactly, and they form very strong opinions. And then they take one sentence or two that these persons have said and use that to justify the opinion that they had about the artifice.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too, and I think you can, and let's say Tucker and Bethany neither do themselves any favors to be like to ever surprise somebody. I think, which like where that's where I feel the vitriol comes from, right? Like you can set both Tucker Carlson and Bethany Hamilton up as golems of like or totems of things that you either really like or really hate in culture today. Like
Yeah.
they're pretty easy because Bethany, you could go down and tick the boxes, right? Like from anti-trans to religious to, all of the things that is. I think Tucker's probably a bit more surprising, but people would actually have to listen to Tucker Carlson in order to, and I think Tucker leans into the inflammatory things.
He does, yeah.
Obviously, that's what sells. I think Tucker is probably more nuanced than people think, but Bethany is not. And so it's easy, or I don't think Bethany is. I think what you think about one position that Bethany has, you can tick all the boxes on that side. And then if you like that side or hate that side, then you just pour on that.
Well, the one part that I thought from Derek's recap that is worth discussing for our listeners and that they might be interested in was when asked about her voicing her stance against the WSL's inclusion of trans female surfers in the women's division, she said, quote, I think there was a lot of women that were not for it. But the unfortunate thing was that the World Surf League told all the athletes, hey, if you're not I'm sorry, hey, you're not allowed to say anything deemed derogatory or negative towards the World Surf League, or we will fine you and disqualify you from competing. End quote.
Hammer town.
So she is revealing that the WSL was actively silencing people in their opinions about the WSL's policymaking. So my issue here is greater than just the attempt to silence, which is an actual problem, but my issue is actually has to do with a larger cultural theme of thinking that disagreeing with somebody means that you are now enemies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It is okay to disagree and even debate and even argue and still remain friends with people. In fact, I would argue that it is an essential part of living in a society. I hope that you have the intellectual gift of being a critical thinker and the ability to analyze conflicting data and form a different conclusion than what other people are telling you to believe. And if you can do those things, it means that we're all going to feel slightly differently about everything. And we're all going to interpret information slightly differently than everyone else. So it's actually beneficial for society and for the progress of our species to have conflicting opinions and be able to discuss them. The infighting is totally cancerous. And I think that the attempt to silence is actually detrimental and downright idiotic for the WSL.
I mean, my goodness, I cannot wait till we're out of this epoch because this,
I
I
know.
know this era will end of the I disagree with you. That means we're enemies, and I will do anything I can to cancel your right to say what you want to say that I disagree with. I want your words erased from this earth, right? Right. Where to me, the damning part of this is, I feel, a kind of pandemic era thing too, of anybody, if you said anything even remotely critical about vaccines or whatever, right? You were just getting, like, I'm sure World Surf League athletes couldn't do that either, where the institution comes in and says, we now are the public square, but this is a private square, actually. And so we can control everything in here. I don't know why the World Surf League, I mean, I know why they wouldn't, but if they were intelligent, I think they all feel like in their, I don't want to call it woke, but they want to feel their ideology is correct and other ideologies are incorrect. And so we are not going to allow you to say incorrect things. Instead of thinking, well, this is our public stance is this. People disagree with that. That doesn't mean that they are necessarily wrong. That just means we are different, right? Mm-hmm. Where if you're the World Surf League, why can't you say, this is our policy? Any surfer who disagrees with it, as long as you're not saying burn the World Surf League down or whatever, have at saying that we don't think it's fair or whatever. Like, we're, as an institution, we made a policy. You are going to be surfing under this policy, whether you want to or not. We don't care about, it's not like we're taking a vote here. We've made our policy, but feel free to say what you want about that policy without fear of recrimination.
Hey, dumbasses, your policy looked wrong 2 years ago. You know what I mean? But we had to evolve as a society, make change, go against what other people said was wrong before to get to this point. And in fact, I would argue all of progress across all of humanity was exactly that. It was people changing their mind from an opinion that they had previously. And so you have to keep the door open for debate and discussion so that you can progress as a society. Full stop.
I mean, the World Surf League, again, it's in all of its World Surf Leagueness before it gets given to Kelly Slater. I think it was Joe Turpel was in the booth talking about how the next crop of surfers are going to be here, are really going to be here around like Iago and stuff. I think we were saying are going to be around for like 10 years, a solid 10-year World Surf League run. And the first thing I thought when he said that was, there's no way this is around for 10 years. There's absolutely no way this World Surf League as it is today, professional, some form of professional surfing, no doubt, but this is not around for 10 years.
That's so funny.
And I think it's stuff like this. It's draconian, weird responses. It's a weird organization. It became a strange like organization that doesn't match at all either the ethos or values of surfing. It's this offshoot thing, and it's funny to look at, and it's enjoyable to watch sometimes, but I don't think there's the might or the will or the actual energy in it for this thing to stand for even 5 more years.
I think that's a fair assessment. Well, bad news for Julian Wilson because he's mounting a comeback. Do you have any thoughts? Are you rooting for Jules?
Of course I'm rooting for Jules, but I think it's the Kelly fallacy once again, is that these guys now are better than you were in your prime just because the way life goes, right? And you're closer to these guys, and you were a phenomenal surfer, but I just don't see it going well. Like again, I think pointing to Yago Dora is the valuable thing here, because Yago would smash Julian. And like, I mean, if you're getting smashed by Yago, and again, not that I think Yago is a legit title threat, but there is enough good surfers at the top where Julian, you didn't scratch the top, you scratched the surface, but you didn't scratch the top even when you were competing. So a bunch of talent.
I'm gonna hold out hope for Jules because he released a edit earlier this year where he was in Indonesia, and his surfing in that looked every bit as good as anybody who's on tour, if not better. The problem is the waves were good. So if there are good waves in the venues that he's competing at to get onto tour, then maybe he has a shot. And once he's on tour, if there's good waves, then maybe he'll have a shot there. But those are a lot of variables. Doing the CS series, it's like, I don't know if he's going to make it through the CS series. If you just put him as a wild card into, let's say, this Fiji event, I think that he would absolutely have a shot at going toe to toe with Yago or anybody else. I think the one thing he has going for him now is that he's bald.
Yeah, it's true.
That helps. The bald, when he was holding on to male pattern baldness and like trying to fake like he had a head of hair, I think that was all a sign of like a real disingenuous
insecurity
and like a disingenuous perspective on the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
But he went home. And the other thing is he had family ties pulling at him from home, like, God, I've been traveling my entire life. Now I have a wife and kid. I would love to go spend time with them, but I'm here, so I'm going to half-heartedly compete and half-heartedly be the dad. He checked that box. He checked out of professional surfing, went home, embraced the baldness, still shredding on the free surf. And that's another thing is I think relinquishing competitive surfing and embracing your talent and just free surfing can unlock a new level and dimension of your surfing. He did that. And now he's realized this is all great and I'm doing it, but I still have competitive drive. And so one more lap, I think he'll come back healthier and stronger than we've seen some other people kind of who are just trying to hang on. And so I'm here for it.
Love to see it. And to be fair, we have seen it before. We saw Kelly come back and in better form. We saw 𝐒𝐤𝐿 come back and win a title.
Saw Andy come back.
Exactly. So not that it's impossible. I just think the young crop, even like stinking Crosby Colapinto is ripping, right? When you got a Crosby Colapinto on tour ripping, there's more guys, I feel, this year kind of in the I feel rarely are there like 12 guys who are like properly like Rio Wida ripping and with a upward trajectory, right? Like Crosby, all these guys, none of these guys are at the peak yet. It feels like there's a big crop of guys just starting to fire the rockets, right? And I don't know how, if you're a Julian Wilson, in a different time with less of that happening, I could see it when guys are getting older and falling off. But there is more guys, more young, hungry coming up than older guys falling. Like Jordy is done-ish, right? Like, but there's only Kelly's done. There's only a handful of those guys who are falling off. There's a bunch more young. Too bad this is not going to last for 10 years.
So I know it really is. Too bad. Carissa Moore announced on Instagram that she is pregnant and was pregnant while surfing the Olympics. Huge congratulations to Carissa and her husband.
Massive congratulations. And it's kind of funny the way this is going. I feel Carissa Moore's career is accidentally, she is the sweetest person on earth and wouldn't mean to be doing this, but it feels like it's pure mockery of Kelly Slater. It's like she is doing everything right while Kelly Slater is at the bar hoping that 𝐂𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐿 will talk to him because he can't quit professional surfing.
You know, you hear the name 𝐿's son,
Yes.
and you're just like, she is untouchable. You know what I
Yep.
mean? She is beyond reproach in her dignity and her aura and what she means to surfing. Her aura means something far greater than you could sum up in words, right? And I feel Carissa, despite having committed her life to competitive surfing, that's her legacy.
Completely, but also, I mean, I made the argument and then got bashed up on Facebook Messenger, the last place that I'm allowed to communicate with outsiders. Uh, but made the argument like somewhat tongue in cheek, but now I'm actually serious about it. That Carissa Moore is the greatest surfer of all time. Kelly Slater, like, we can't just count titles, right? Carissa got a gold, got 5 world titles, has class, has charm, has dignity, has all these things. Kelly has 11 world titles. He really had some good video parts and stuff. He like set the bar for, but he doesn't have like the whole package that Carissa Moore has. I could say we're talking about best surfer ever. It's Carissa Moore.
Best surfer includes best human,
Sure.
I would argue going to be a phenomenal mother, going to be
Yeah.
a phenomenal wife, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, best surfer, quote unquote, encapsulates, much like the term waterman,
Yeah.
encapsulates all of the activities. Surfer should encapsulate all of the activities, not just
Titles.
shredding on a pointy thruster.
Yes. But yeah, like her announcing her pregnancy after competing in the Olympics, like the whole thing was just poignant and, sweet. It wasn't look at me. It wasn't any of that. It was just an announcement to the, fans and friends
Yeah.
that we're expecting a baby and it was all great. And yeah, whereas Kelly Slater at the bar in Fiji with an unnamed son at home, it just feels like what presumably.
Well, literally being forced into retirement and just not accepting his everybody literally posed an intervention
Yeah,
on him
they
when
tried.
he
It
when
didn't
he
work.
didn't requalify mid-year cut. Everybody got on Instagram and was like, congratulations on retirement, Kelly.
Yep.
Best friends, everybody. Go, we support you, salute you, phenomenal career, good job on retirement. Kelly's just like, nope, not saying the word. I will not say the word, and I will be back in Tahiti and back at Fiji. You cannot get rid of me, despite losing in the elimination round.
And guess who's gonna? There's no way Kelly Slater is not showing up for Pipe, which in the World Surf League's brilliance now is at the start of the season. So Kelly will start at Pipe. He'll probably skip Sunset, but then he'll be like eyeing the swell forecast for every event, and he'll hit anyone besides Brazil that has a decent forecast.
And even if they don't allow him into the event, he'll be hanging out at the bar.
I mean, he legit will be. He'll be waiting for an interview.
Um, Stab Magazine released an audience survey. I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but I've gotten 12 messages from people with screenshots. I can post them for you if you'd like. One of the questions on the survey is, what is your favorite surf podcast? And there's 10 of them. The grit is not listed, but there is an option at the bottom that says other. And so the screenshots I'm getting is people saying, clicking other and writing in the grit as a submission.
Thank you, people. I would love if we got uh enough write-ins to break Stab's wall of like fake dumbness. That would be really great. So Stab has a wall, like the World Surf League has a wall of positive noise. Stab has a wall of passive aggressive hurt feelings, is what it has. Stab's institutional hurt feelings are embarrassing. Like the institution, the title shouldn't doesn't have feelings.
Right.
Stab shouldn't have hurt feelings. Stab's hurt feelings are perpetually apparent in almost everything Stab does.
It's pretty funny to me. Thank you, though. Surf Splendor is one of the options.
Oh,
Spit
great.
with Scott Bass is one of the options, which my voice
Sweet.
is on both those. But it's hilarious that they just choose to not acknowledge or include this one. There's no other reason other than your critical assessment of Stab and Sam and their business practices.
It's
There's no other reason.
passive aggressive hurt feelings from the institution.
Or maybe we don't qualify as a surf podcast anymore.
I mean, I was gonna say we should do. Remember, I think we've talked about it before on the show. When in Beverly Hills 90210, when they turned the Peach Pit, where they all hung out, to the Peach Pit After Dark, they turned it into a nighttime club. You and I should do the Grit After Dark, where we meet again at night and we just talk wine, food, parenting, just smooth jazz.
I agree. People are into it. They've already asked for it. By the way, I can't believe I didn't lead with this story. The dating game, breaking the Subaru stereotype. We have updates.
Can't wait to get to them.
All right. Blake is far out in the front here as he was the initial submission, the MIT PhD, moving from the East Coast back to LA. And Jenny, our lucky single lady who's looking to break the Subaru stereotype, is also in Santa Monica. So that is a potential match. I am working on connecting those two right now, but I still want to give other guys a shot.
Have they seen each other's photographs?
Great question. I sent Blake an email this morning with Jenny's photographs and asked for him to submit 5 of his own and answer a couple of questions that Jenny posed. And if he does those things, I will then supply those to Jenny. She can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And if it's a thumbs up, I've got both their social media accounts and I will connect them via social media. He can slide into her DMs and go from there.
I have a question for you. I mean, we are doing a great service. I don't think I've realized how great a service this is. I've never been on a dating app myself. But I read a story the other day about a dude who was so tired of dating apps and how they don't work that he got a billboard, right? And so it's him on a billboard and it says, "Date Dave." And it gives like some fun facts. It's his picture and it gives some fun facts of Dave. And I guess he's getting blown up because it's whatever. People like it and whatever. But are dating apps really how is it really that difficult to communicate via dating app?
No, it's not. Look, I met my wife on a dating app, so I would argue I'm a success story. But what it is incredibly tedious and requires a lot of perseverance and thick skin.
So if you and I, though, we can help the perseverance and the thick skin. I was trying to suss out. So what is the value, of an intermediary? And so we can persevere and have thick skin. So they don't have, and good sense of knowing that this person and this person should match together. The things that you think are your best traits and qualities maybe aren't your best traits and qualities. Maybe you need to have somebody else tell you, nope, this is actually the thing that you should lead with, right?
That's all true.
Often in life.
That's all true. I think the other thing here is if they're both listening, if the male and the female are both listening to this show, that's a self-selecting sample. There's already something in common and a similar sense of humor, I would argue, similar interests. And so that narrows it drastically into somebody who's you're going to be able to relate to. The other problem, though, to get to your point, or to answer your question about the dating apps, is there's just so much chaff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's so much white noise and you don't know what people's intentions are. And so even if you're communicating with them on the app, they might be lying about their intentions. And so what you really want to do is distill and get down to somebody who obviously you're going to get along with and be compatible with, but has intentions that are similar to yours, whether it is just a one-night stand or marriage. You want clarity on those things. And so I think that you and I can vet that out. If somebody is going to go through the effort of answering the questions that I will supply here for the listeners, that says a lot about them. They're going to jump through these hoops. They're going to take the energy and the effort to do all of this. Then that already puts them in a position where Jenny might be willing to meet them.
They're a serious person.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're not gonna if they're just trying to get laid quick and easy, and that's the reason we're here is that's Jenny's stated interest is to find somebody to get married to. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So um if they're just trying to get a quick one night stand, there's way easier ways than listening to our shows weekly and then submitting all these Q&As to us and going through my 3 levels, my 3 phase process that I have built out, and then going and meeting Jenny. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's true.
So as a refresher, Jenny is 37 years old, lives in Santa Monica, works in the health industry. Passions are surfing, the environment, billiards, camping, food, wine, outdoor activities, soccer, different cultures. She likes cities. Her type that she's looking for: educated, athletic, adventurous, funny, surfer slash waterman is a plus, and a seaweed farmer gets a direct front of the line pass.
So
Her
Japanese men out there.
Still haven't figured out what she means by that, but if you are a seaweed farmer, jump in. Her deal breakers: she doesn't like homebodies. She doesn't like somebody who smokes cigarettes and or vapes. She doesn't like negative Nancy's or a downer Dan. Kids from a past relationship is a deal
Doesn't
breaker,
like.
so no kids. She's or if somebody is still living with their parents, that is also a deal breaker. So she wants a grown ass adult man.
But not too grown ass who had his own kids already.
Correct. Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. She wants a grown half-ass man. So if you would like to enter this contest, if you are a male, doesn't mind that she drives a Subaru, and you would like to enter this contest, you can email me surfsplendor@gmail.com. Give me a short outline of yourself, including your age, your educational background, your location, your general interests, and 5 photos of yourself. I have 5 photos of Jenny. I am not going to share them with you until you share your 5 photos of me. Jenny is holding the cards here, but I am holding the cards on her behalf, and I will share those photos with you. And then, you know what? I discussed this with Jenny. It's like, look, transparency is best. We want to be able to see what everybody looks like, make us, are we attracted or not? Am I attracted to you or not? And then also transparency in terms of social media accounts. So supply me with your social media accounts so I can provide that to Jenny. I have hers. I will provide it to you if you get to the second phase of this game. But there's 3 specific things that I want you to include in your email that Jenny wants to know. 3 things that you value in your relationship. That's the first. Number 2, what are your simple pleasures or what brings you joy throughout your week? So something simple through the monotony of your week, that has you kind of got working on a grind. What are some simple things that bring you pleasure each week?
Smoking cigarettes.
You're out. My children from my previous relationship. The third thing that she wants to know is what is something you're looking forward to in the next 6 months?
Okay.
So
good questions.
Those are your 3 things.
What do you value most? Can you even answer that question, David Lee Scales?
What are the 3 things that I value in a relationship?
Yeah.
I absolutely could have when I was in the dating scene. Those are things that are at the front of your mind when you're in the dating scene.
Okay. Could you now?
I mean, I can come up with some right off the top of my head. Honesty.
Trust. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, all the basic stuff, but I honestly, like, honesty is super key. Like, I want my wife to have brutal honesty with me. Like
really?
the level of honesty that I'm talking about is honest. Like, seriously, tell me uh your things that you are afraid to even say out loud. Like, I would like to know those things about you because maybe I'm into it too, or
Okay.
maybe I'm struggling with the same thing too, or but I would love to, rather than you sheltering them and hiding them away and being afraid of them, like, I'd love to dig in and really get to know you on that level. So
Okay.
honesty.
Okay.
I value humor.
Boom. Look at that. You're back in the dating game.
These are things that I have found in my relationship that I value even more now, So anyways, submit again, surfsplendor@gmail.com, and Jenny, we're going to hook you up. And again, Blake's out in the front right now. I'm just waiting for him to reply with his 5 photos, and then I can submit those to Jenny and she can give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
But gentlemen, do not be scared off by Blake's PhD from MIT in mechanical engineering.
Maybe he's ugly.
You got this. Yeah. Or maybe Jenny's like doesn't want a super smart rich guy. Maybe she's into Uber drivers.
Seaweed farmers, obviously.
Yeah.
So the one thing that beyond any of this, because I've jumped through these hoops in the dating scene, jumped through all these hoops, and it seems phenomenal. You're just like, this person is the exact person I'm looking for. Then you go out on a date, and guess what? Chemistry is a thing.
Yep.
Chemistry is a real thing that you don't know. Like, you can have all of this vetted, and then you sit across from the person, you're just like, why are they not more, I don't know, why am I not more attracted? And even I'm physically attracted to their photos, but why right now, across from this person, is there zero connection? And
Chemistry.
so, yeah. So Blake might not work out for Blake. We're going to find out later, but submit in the meantime, and we will try to hook you up. Quick follow-up to the Weekend Vans giveaway. I told you Dr. Rosenblatt from New Jersey won, and you're like, is he going to actually like fly out here to use it?
Yeah.
Turns out I got a message from Bill, Dr. Rosenblatt. He is, and he's going to schedule his trip with the Boardroom show. He will be here in person.
Boom. Can't wait to actually meet him. And we can all have a Merrick Lager in the Weekend Van.
I know. We will. We shall. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, perfect. We should record an episode whilst drinking Merrick Lagers in the Weekend Van when is the Boardroom show? Coming up, yeah? Kind of?
Yeah, second weekend of October. I think it's the 12th and 13th.
Does he do 2 a year?
Sometimes he has. Sometimes he's done one in Santa Cruz. He's done one in Japan, but generally once a year.
Man, that's how fast this year went. It feels like I was at the Boardroom show just yesterday.
It was last October. So it's going to be October 12th and 13th at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. Come meet us in person. Okay, I have a pro in the wild. How are you doing on time today?
I'm good.
You want to go tools to live by or pros in the wild first?
Let's go tools real quick. I've really been enjoying leaning into my Veyer watch lately.
Oh, that's right. Veyer watches presented tools to live by. I've got mine right here. VeyerWatches.com/surf splendor will save you 15% on an American assembled, ocean ready, waterproof guaranteed timepiece.
There's been no waves in Southern California, but there has been lots of warm swimming. I've been in the water, like body surfing and just swimming, but always on a time crunch. Always got to get the kid to ballet or whatever. Veyer watch, man. I lean on that thing heavily.
Are you just playing in the water, or are you actually like swimming laps, like to get exercise?
Basically playing.
Okay. Body surfing.
Yeah. Thwomping.
Okay. Well, if you find yourself with a swell on a surfboard, this advice that this listener is asking for will come into play.
David Lee, Chaz, Nick Bravante with a quick not even a follow-up, but just a quick back-to-back couple calls here the last couple weeks. Etiquette question. When you're out there waiting for a wave and maybe you're waiting for a set wave, there's a couple of groms on the inside or somebody else, I know this happens, in terms of laterally to the peak of the wave, said insider maybe closer to the peak, giving them priority, but you start paddling way outside before you're really close to that person on the inside. And although that person on the inside does have priority or claim to the wave, you're already basically like getting to your feet or you've caught the wave. It's pretty obvious that you got it, you're going, and the person on the inside goes and then gets pissed off that you did or did not snake them. I was the, aggressor today. Caught a wave, grom on the inside, better surfer, little kid ripping. Caught the wave, and he was like pissed that I, air quotes, snaked him. But I was like, dude, I was on it, I was up and riding, and you decided to take off behind me. Who's wrong? Who's right? Let me know. Keep up the good work, guys.
I have strong opinions about this, but would you like to go first?
I do too. I will go first. I feel that while the temptation to do that is great, what it leads to is a world where everybody's riding 9-foot boards because everybody's just got to get the wave first, right? I feel you've got to leave room in the lineup for, maybe you were on a big board, right? Or a bigger board, more foam, and you could get out there. Dude on a short board, is like, man, I can't go out there and catch it out there. My board, I'm on a like high performance thruster. And like, so I think that it's not wrong always to do that. I think you got to judge the person, but I think you don't do that very often. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And in a world where everyone should, that's what's happened, I feel, around where I surf. There used to be a real mix of boards in the lineup, right? There would be, of course, longer boards. There would be a wide variety, including a lot of high performance shortboards. The high performance shortboard around the reefs is basically extinct now, even though
Totally.
the waves are not, you know, as great for it, but they're not horrible for it.
Yeah.
But you just basically, if you paddle out on anything other than a mid length, you're not going to surf, which that's super annoying. And the everyone on more foam should, I think, preserve zones for the high performance thruster. So I'm going to say don't do that if you're taking a wave away from a dude on a shortboard who can't paddle into that wave way out there, right? If you're doing that to a dude on a board equal to yours, do that all day, every day, because that dude is just being lazy by dropping anchor. If it's a smaller board that he's on, though, don't do it.
Yeah, I agree completely. I had this exact situation happen to me recently. So I hate to tell Nick he's wrong, but he's wrong. And I side with the Grom. I once was Nick. I remember doing that exact thing all the time. But I no longer am, and I sympathize with the Grom in this scenario. It's usually the Grom doing this, by the way. But here's the scenario I was in. Having a nice Sunday morning surf with my buddy from high school. Known each other forever, chilling, having a blast, right? There's plenty of waves to go around. It's a beach break. We're sitting on this particular peak, but there's peaks coming in over there. So there's a group of guys over there. There's peaks coming in over here. On the other side, there's a group of guys over there. One of them, in fact, is a 20-year-old hyper, energetic, aggressive surfer. And he's getting tons of waves. And a set comes in and he gets a wave. I'm within range of paddling over to compete with him for that, but you're on that peak. We're on this peak. Those guys are on that peak. Everybody's got plenty of waves going around. Well, he got his set, paddles back out, and then a set comes to my buddy and I, and it's coming right to us. Like we're sitting. I don't even have to paddle. All I'm going to have to do is turn around, cork my board down a little bit, and get up and go. One paddle in, and I'm up and riding, right? But I could see he sees it coming. And so he starts beelining from his peak out towards my peak. And so I have to make a decision here. I'm like, okay, I can paddle straight out and block him, pull a blocking maneuver because I am still in priority and I am deeper. And all I have to do is paddle 10 yards out and it'll just block his path. But I don't want to paddle out. This thing's coming right to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's coming right to me in my domain. His domain is over there. He got his. I didn't paddle battle him on his. So stay over there. And ultimately, I let him get away with it. I was like, look, I don't really want to paddle battle him. And I don't really care about this wave that much. So I guess I'll just let him go. And maybe there was another one behind it. And I think there was. So he went on the first one. I went on the second one, kind of a thing. But I was like, hey, dickhead, calm down. There's enough for everybody until you start gorging. And then it gets me in a mood and I'm going to say something. You know what I mean? So Nick Bravante, unfortunately, you were the aggressor. He correctly identified I was the aggressor. He used that term, and that's exactly what it is. It's not a huge offense, but it's an aggressive move, and that's going to stimulate a mood in the lineup. But like I said, I remember for a long period of my time being that exact guy, and my thought was, I'm more energized than you are.
Yeah.
Like the more energized surfer has access to more things. And so screw you. You need to up your energy level. But in hindsight, I was wrong.
Yep. I'm going to say that kind of behavior really does lead towards like, yeah, because once somebody's gorging, then everybody says, well, okay, if you're gorging, I better gorge too. You don't want a gorgy lineup, A. B, again, you also don't want a lineup that where the high performance shortboard becomes extinct, where everyone is on a bunch of foam, because that is not a great place to be.
You're right. He is quietly urging somebody out there to next time they go surfing, think that.
You don't want to think that thought.
Are you still there? You look frozen.
Got you.
Okay, cool.
Back. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now we've got a pros in the wild. And let me say, this one is scathing.
Can't wait.
It's a follow-up to our last 2 weeks of conversation.
Chaz and
It's a little bit of a long call, 4 minutes, but hang in there. It's worth it.
I'm waiting.
DLS, first time caller, long time listener. Hey, just want to call and leave a note about your recent commentary about the one Billy Kemper. I'm titling this entry, Billy Kemper is a douche, and I have proof. Okay, so I was actually going to call a few weeks ago when the topic about Billy Kemper and the OnlyFans came up, and I had a story to tell that would have reinforced the douchiness of the OnlyFans move. However, last week's show, commenting about the stab piece really compelled me to call now and tell this story. So here goes. Anyway, I was in Waikiki earlier this summer, and one particular day there was a bunch of heads right at the Queen's Break on the shore. There was a Tenori photo shoot, so a lot of the athletes from Tenori were there, and others, one of which being Billy Kemper. They were just hanging out all day. That was all good. Towards the end of the day, just a random tourist carrying a longboard accidentally bumped his kid, and Billy went off on this guy. The guy was clearly a first-time beginner and probably never carried a longboard ever in his life, but the fact that he bumped his kid, which I presume was Billy's kid, but bumped some younger kid, Billy went off on this tourist right there in front of everybody. It was really an embarrassment, to be honest. I witnessed the whole thing right in front of me, and it was just a super poor representation of Aloha Spirit. Now, when you bump a kid with carrying a longboard, that's going to happen, especially in Waikiki, where there's just more first-time beginners than probably anywhere on the planet. It's just going to happen. But the fact that he went off on this guy who had no clue that it even happened, and it was not even like a hard bump. It was just like a soft bump with the board. So the guy did not deserve to get just berated by Billy there on the spot. Just, again, super poor. It was embarrassment for himself. But he was also there in front of all of his peers, too, from this photo shoot, which I thought, I'm not sure how many people really saw that from the shoot, but nevertheless, you don't behave like that on a professional photo shoot. Anyways, just a total douche move. Now, here's the kicker. That very same day, I went back to my place, and I saw a highlight of the ESPYs, where Billy's big wave counterpart, Lenny, was a representative receiving that humanitarian award on behalf of the Maui surf community for their efforts in the Lahaina fires. Great award. They presented themselves really, really well on stage, and so I just thought it was an interesting comparison between a juxtaposition from Lenny, both these guys from the big wave world. The same day you get Lenny on national TV accepting this humanitarian award on behalf of the community. The same day you have Billy Kemper yelling at first time, just beginner kooks in Waikiki. Just the exact polar opposite effect of the Aloha Spirit. Lenny, good on you for demonstrating the Aloha Spirit. Billy Kemper, shame on you for your behavior there. Anyways, and by the way, I'm not even really a Lenny fan, just for his, history with Zuckerberg there, but anyways, him, doing good for the Lahaina community during the fires totally redeemed himself with me. But anyway, that's a different story. All right, boys, keep work. Enjoy.
Damning.
Billy Kemper, shame on you. I will say, berating somebody over ignorance is such a shameful look. And I'm glad that this dude properly called it out. Because it's not about, if this guy was maliciously walking around with his longboard, hitting, causing all kinds of trouble and then not caring, then that's different. That's Billy, go after that dude, right? When somebody gets berated for an unintentional accident, it's always an ugly, ugly, ugly look.
It's a reflection of the person doing the berating far more than it's a reflection of the person who had the quote offense.
Yeah.
It's Billy trying to assert his alpha maleness and totally misreading the situation, but having a need to assert the alpha maleness to the world despite what's going on in the world.
I will say, there's been times in the lineup where I've been dropped in on or whatever, and I will for, haul off on the person. And then you see their face that it was they just have no idea. And I always feel so bad in those moments, but then, yeah, genuinely apologize and try to give a little teaching moment, but with mostly just effusive apology, where I would wish that Billy Kemper didn't have to be the alpha and could have just said, oh man, look, it was a long day and I'm sorry. Whatever. Like, sorry about it, man.
The more stories we get about good old Billy, I have a feeling he was a douche from the beginning, but I also have a suspicion, or maybe just a belief, that we're all a few blessings away from being a douche ourselves. Like, if you earn enough money and you become that disconnected from what it felt like to not have money, and if you conquer the ocean, as Billy has in a lot of ways, and if you have the beautiful wife and the full family and you forget what it's like to be lonely, how long until you just start being a douche? You just start being like, you idiots who don't get it. Like, why are you acting out? Why are you, I mean, I feel like that's just almost human nature.
We all got a little Billy living inside of us.
Nobody accomplishes all of those things, has millions of dollars, beautiful family, all the comforts in life, and then just thinks, I'm going to delight in this. I'm just going to sit here and revel in it. No, they find some itch to scratch. You know what I mean?
True. It's
so
true.
Weird. So,
Billy,
okay.
Well, pro in the wild.
Yeah, good pro in the wild. They're not always glowing reviews of these pros. Don't meet your heroes, Chaz.
Yeah, that's the best part of this pros in the wild. There's a real mixed bag, but also I feel we have and then there's some on the fence, like the Lane Beachley one. Was Lane hero or anti-hero in that moment?
You don't know.
Don't know.
Leave it to the listener to decide. All right. Well, hey, good work. Let's go to commercial break. We deserve a break, and we will be back with Barrel or Not. Rocketmoney.com/surf. Just this week, my wife figured out she was paying a subscription for Showtime, but then also paying for Paramount Plus, which includes Showtime for free. That's precisely what Rocket Money was designed for. A modern tool that meticulously tracks the details that we easily get distracted from. It's a finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your monthly spending, and helps you lower your bills. It gives you freedom by helping you see your subscriptions in a simple dashboard and alerts you about hidden fees or increases. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things that you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/surf. Calm the clutter in your head, simplify the tedium of your financial life, and find freedom through rocketmoney.com/surf. All right, Chaz, welcome back to Barrel or Not.
Great.
We often discuss food and our preferences, and I think that leads some people to think of us as food experts, and then they want our opinion when they're encountering a new food in the wild. So let's go ahead and play this listener call.
Yo, DLS and Chaz, calling in for the grit. I just spent 5 days in San Diego, down at Pacific Beach, coming from Canada, surfing and eating tacos. And one evening, while sitting over some Oscar's tacos and ceviche, it had me wondering: is ceviche something that one eats before their tacos? Do you eat it with your taco? Is it like the fries to a burger? Is it something you eat on your own? I don't know. This is a new thing to me, as we don't really have ceviche like they do at Oscar's up here in Canada. Do you eat it, breakfast? Is it breakfast? I just don't know. This is all new to me. San Diego is a nice place, although there were a lot of weird people. When I was down in San Diego, I went to the zoo, and they had these gigantic Galapagos tortoises there. And I have to say, they're cooler than a turtle. So I think Kelly's been wrong the whole time. I don't like turtles. I like tortoises. All right, boys. Cheers. Keep up the good work. See ya.
It felt almost like a stand-up routine. He went from the ceviche bit
to sand, but it all tied, right?
It was perfect. I loved it. But yeah, it was like, Well, San Diego's a nice place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird people there, but got me thinking about turtles. And
Yep. Yep.
it was like a really masterful. Felt like it was a Seinfeld calling in or something.
It was
Anyways,
great. Well, we have advice though.
hard-hitting questions.
Yeah. This is a barrel or not, right? Or this is
It's not. This is just a
tool.
lead in to barrel or not.
Okay. So ceviche. Thanks for bringing it up. Ceviche can be a tough one. Ceviche is not a breakfast food. Ceviche
Correct. Yeah.
can be a in lieu of lunch, kind of a light lunch, right? You order the ceviche kind of because you're not that hungry. So you're just going to have your ceviche with some chips. That's going to be your meal, right? That's one way to do it. The other way to do it, I feel, is a nighttime appetizer. But ceviche is such a strong taste that you can't just do ceviche and then get a steak for dinner, right? Or you can't do ceviche and then get a hamburger. Like, you have to really pair whatever your ceviche demands as its starter thing, demands the meal match it somehow. Like, with
Tacos is the best pairing. He did it the right way.
except not all tacos. I feel you got to go fish tacos. I don't think you can go a regular carne asada after a ceviche.
Mm. Well, it never dawned on me that some unfortunate people around the world might not have had access to ceviche their entire life because it's just been omnipresent in my life living near Mexico. I just presumed everybody knew what ceviche was and had it as part of their life all the time. Like him being confused by ceviche made me feel very sad for everybody else in the world.
I didn't have even an inkling of what ceviche was up until probably 13 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. No idea.
Man.
Yeah.
Man, I am so narrow-minded.
Yep.
Do you like it?
I do. It's not like a good ceviche is great. A bad ceviche is pretty terrible. And I think a mediocre ceviche is not really worth much, right? And so it has to be great to be good.
It has to have fresh fish. That's the thing. So for listeners, now I feel a need to educate because apparently people don't know what ceviche is, but ceviche is raw fish. I mean, you could use shrimp, you could use octopus, but traditionally it's fish, white fish, but it's cooked by the acid in lime juice. So they don't actually put it over an open flame. There's no heat source. But if you mix it with the lime juice, that kind of cures it a little bit. And so that's the only cooking that it has. So it's essentially raw fish or cured fish. And then it's got cilantro, red onions, tomatoes, a couple of other things. You can kind of do different things, but it is an appetizer. So to answer the listeners' questions, it is an appetizer. I would argue you could eat a gallon of ceviche and never get full.
It's true.
Like you can, so you're always going to have, unless it's a light lunch, like you said, but even still, ceviche is meant to be an appetizer, definitely not a breakfast food, and have at it. Go ham on the ceviche.
The problem, but let me warn you, the pitfall in ceviche is not the ceviche itself. You could eat gallons of that. The pitfall is the corn chip that you use to eat the ceviche, because the ceviche is so good. And before you know it, you've eaten a bag of corn chips, and then you're like, uh-oh, I just ate a bag of corn chips, and that doesn't feel good.
So while you said bad ceviche is bad, of course, if you have bad fish, it's going to be bad. Medium ceviche is okay, and then good ceviche is great. There's no greater example than the corn chip itself. A good corn chip is the greatest thing on the planet, and a bad one is just a complete waste of calories. Don't even get it near my mouth.
Yep. And a mediocre one is also mostly a waste of space.
Mostly a waste of and calories. That's the thing, is they're very dense calorie content, but a good one is worth it. And the difference is homemade tortillas and fresh oil.
Yep. Fresh oil.
We've got a Mexican restaurant near us. Those things are so addictive, and the saltiness of it. And it's like, I can't even eat one, because if I eat one, I'm going to eat the whole bag. And so I have to I've even at times ordered our food and say, don't include the chips.
Yes.
I don't need them near me, because
you have to be smart. A good tortilla chip is more deadly than a bad one. Bad one, you can have a couple, spoon your ceviche in, it's all fine and good, you're finished. Good one, you'll just keep ordering more ceviche just so you can eat more tortilla chips.
Exactly. And that is the great thing about ceviche as well, though, is the tortilla chip. Like ceviche, I could eat by the spoonful, but The tortilla chip. You order it mainly to use the tortilla chip.
Yep.
I'll tell you guys another little sneaky one for those of you who don't live anywhere near Mexico is Mexican style shrimp cocktail.
Oh yeah.
It's for everybody who thinks of shrimp cocktail as, cold cooked shrimp with cocktail sauce. That is a thing, but the Mexican style, it's a soup. It's like a tomatoey, brothy soup with avocado in it, shrimp, onions. It is phenomenal.
Cocktail.
Yeah. Okay, barrel or not, officially. This comes off of the Fiji event. Using the phrase, let's go.
Oh, who said it in the...
Everybody, all day, every day, anywhere you go nowadays. I'll go to, you'll hear people on the beach, like in the gym, like, let's go. Or they just use it to amplify something that they're excited about.
I'm going to say no barrel. Anything that gets public usage that much that, like, for example, right now, the word weird, right? Like everybody's loving to use weird to describe anything, whatever. I think it gets attributed to Democrats painting Trump and Vance as weird. But so now you see it, I'll see 15 headlines a day that have weird in it. Once you start really noticing something, then you yourself stop using it. You might have loved that word, but I'm sorry, that word now has jumped the proverbial shark. Let's go, I feel, is in that category. On the surface, the word weird or phrase let's go, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
It's usage. And when it gets into the parlance and enough people are using it that way, then you got to stop. You can't be a joiner when it comes to language.
Do you know what I'm talking about though with the let's go thing? Like people now using it just to they're amped up on something. Yeah. So they just use it and they're not actually going anywhere. It's just like they're hyped up and they're trying to express that hypeness. It is so annoying.
Yeah. Express it another way.
Exactly. Okay. Barrel and on number 2 plucked from my real life, going to your high school reunion.
Funny. I'm going to say it's probably a barrel. I've never been to any of mine reunions and can't even imagine going. And remember sitting at the time, I came from the Gen X, like peak Gen X era of like, I feel kind of anti-authoritarian, any anti-establishment, I suppose. And I remember when the class leaders or whoever they were sat the graduating class down and said, okay, and we got to talk about, are we going to have our first reunion at like 5 years or you're going to wait to 10 years? Everybody just booed them so loud that I don't think anything, and I'm sure they have had reunions, but that was the general consensus in the room. I can't imagine going and seeing like people. It'd be funny, I guess, but I can't imagine it more than just being I don't know, a weird passing novelty. I can't imagine engaging with anybody, but if it was easy, I don't see why not, right? There's nothing wrong with it.
The weirdness is the draw. The idea of people who knew you at a very foundational time in your life is enough of a weird thing to want to go delight in for one night,
Did you do it then?
So, okay, I've got a 25th one coming up next month and I RSVP'd. Yes, I'm going. And when I first saw the invite, I scoffed. It was just like, what a waste of a night, And then I thought a little bit more about it. And I went to my 10-year reunion 15 years ago now, which is crazy. And I reconnected with one person there that then became a good friend in these last 15 years. And I don't think I was even really friends with her in high school. Like we knew each other, but I certainly didn't remember her as being a good friend in high school. But for whatever reason, we hit it off at the reunion and she has become a important person through, critical times in the last 15 years of my life. I've relied on her as a friend. And I think I've done the same for her. And so I was like, man, just that one thing alone is worth going to.
Makes it worth it.
Yeah. And it's another weird thing where the people who you knew in a foundational time in your life, I would never pick any of them as friends today. Even her, I would not pick her as a friend today. But because we knew each other then, we are friends today. And that somebody knowing you at that time, it's just, it's like a cheat code. You know what I mean? To
there's a through line.
Connecting with people.
I worry that maybe my memory would get jogged. I feel that my memory is so sparse about the high school years. I remember some things, but I feel like I'd walk around a room and people would say, "Remember this?" And I'd be like, "Nope, I don't. I don't remember anything. Don't remember any of it."
I don't really remember any of it either, to be honest with you. Um, the funny thing is, now that I'm going, I'm like, well, I hope everybody's going. I don't want there just be 8 of us there, you know?
Yeah.
But so I'm messaging people from high school who I've like been friends on Facebook with, just like, hey, are you going? Or if you've seen the invite. And somebody said, I have no interest in reliving my high school years. And I was like, yeah, me neither. That's not why you go. You're not
Yeah.
going there to like reminisce and be like, remember the touchdown pass that I caught? You know,
Yeah.
no, it's totally different. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Barrel.
I think barrel too. Do you want to relive something right now? I've got a photo I'm
Yes.
going to show you.
Oh, yeah. Is that you?
That's you.
What? Where'd that come from? That's not me.
Do you recognize that?
That's not me.
That is 100% you in elementary school.
I mean, it looks like me, but I didn't have braces in elementary school.
Did you have braces at some point?
I did in junior high, but that's not,
That's junior. That's a photo of you in junior high,
I
dude.
never had that cool a haircut. Did somebody send it to you?
Yes. A listener DM'd this to me and said, I grew up with Chad. I think it auto corrected to say Chad.
Yeah.
And
Let me see that picture again.
I'll send it to you. I meant to send it to you earlier this week, but I just figured it would be better on air.
I don't think that's me. I don't think I ever had that cool a haircut, to be honest.
Dude, it looks
Check it.
exactly like you.
Who's the person?
His Instagram handle just said Mick Scrooge. So it was a fake name.
Okay.
But I'll send this to you. You can review it more
Yeah, I'm
closely.
gonna have to review. I'm gonna have to look closely.
So for listeners, this is a school photo,
Yeah,
junior high school photo of what exactly looks like Chaz, and somebody who went to school with you saying
it is.
it is you. And he also said nobody didn't love you, is what he said.
Oh
He's
man.
friends with all.
Well, yeah, but is he sure that it was me, not some other podcaster named Chaz? I don't remember being well liked or ever having a cool haircut.
Dude, it looks exactly
It
like
does
you.
look a lot like me.
Which also reminds me, it looks exactly like Wilbur Kookmeyer.
I mean, yeah,
I think
I mean,
you've been told that before.
it's true, and it's something that I embrace.
Yeah, you should.
I mean, yeah, to look like surfing's only comic is pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, final barrel or nah comes out of the Bethany Hamilton conversation with Tucker Carlson.
Having one on.
Homeschooling your kids.
Oh, so funny. I picked this up on the Bethany thing and I know that it is a signifier for radical belief, right? Typically on the right, I think. I think it's the thought is I don't want my kid learning about no tranny stuff, so I'm taking my kid out of school, right?
Right, right.
Which um so now it is a signifier. And I think it took me I think I've known in the back of my mind that it is a signifier, but it took me reading 𝐒𝐥𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿's comments to say, or the story to think, oh, this is now a real signifier. Like somebody who homeschools is XYZ, where I homeschool and it's for absolutely none of those reasons. Like, so I am full pro homeschooling, even more now than when I first began. When I first began the homeschool, it was pandemic, right? And so kid was just, I think she was in second grade and she was literally just in the backyard on her iPad all day. Like that's how they did it. And my buddy said, hey, FYI, we could do this better. Let's just do it. And I was super scared to try. I was like, okay. Like I didn't know. I'd never been homeschooled. Like it was all new to me. At this point now, so it's third, fourth, fifth. This is the 4th year, I guess, of homeschooling now. Just started 6th grade. You realize, and no offense, teachers, and no offense, school, you realize what a giant, giant waste of time school is. Like
Yeah.
the learning portion of school, and I get it. If if you work and have to have your kids somewhere 8 hours a day, which is most people, right? Like I'm nothing against if you school is fine, but if you could choose not to do it, your kid will be more enriched. Like, I think, I mean, she can be or dream about or pursue being a like phenomenal ballerina. There would be no way to do that with school. Like, but I have plenty of time for both education that's better and for her to do a bunch of other stuff. Like we surf and then go to ballet class, right? Instead of just sitting in a hot box of school.
Yeah, it's so Bethany Hamilton was pro homeschooling as well, and she homeschools her kids. Um, I know people have strong opinions about this, and sometimes with strong, I'm apprehensive to step on toes sometimes,
Sure.
or I make a claim about how you should deal with a checker at the grocery store, and then we get a bunch of flack from the checkers of the world. This is a scenario where I think even the teachers of the world at public schools would tell you public schools suck. You know what I mean? Like they'll be like, it is a nightmare. The bureaucracy, I hate it now. Maybe I didn't hate it 10 years ago, but I think the consensus is kind of in with public schooling, certainly in Southern California, where you and I are talking about. But I think there's an in between as well. I think
Sure.
there's a lot of people who don't have the luxury of doing what you're doing, but there's like, I don't think I will pursue what you're doing. I don't have the luxury of doing it, but I'm definitely not sending my kid to public school. You know what I mean? Like, and hopefully there's a private school version that isn't as expensive as the private schools of my youth, and we can figure out how to make that work. But Austin is starting preschool, and we're sending him to a Montessori school. And I remember learning about Montessori when I was in college, psychology, and thinking, hey, this is how I would like to raise my kids. And now that we're in that phase, and I looked into it a little bit more deeply, it's a solution. It's like, uh, I people probably don't know what it is, but it's basically like non-interventionist teaching. You give the kid a learning environment and you let them pick their own style of learning on a given day at a given time. Maybe they'll play with math related tools all day, or maybe they do art all day. You just let them do that. There's no standardized testing and there's no curriculum necessarily. And it's non-interventionist in the uh, idea that the teachers, if a kid's doing a puzzle, the teacher doesn't help him finish the puzzle. The point isn't to finish the puzzle. The point is for them to have intellectual curiosity. And the idea is that kids know how to problem solve on their own. Or if he doesn't problem solve it and decides he wants to go play outside instead, that's great too. Let him go play outside instead. Anyways, they find out, through in the end, the kids are actually better at the standardized test. If they do take the standardized test, they actually rate higher than the kids who went through the standardized schooling, and they're more equipped to problem solve and creatively navigate their life after the fact. That's kind of the idea. But as I've analyzed the way to do it, we have a neighbor, a girl who's about the same age as Austin, and they are entirely different human beings. Like she's inclined a certain way and he's inclined a different way. One isn't better, one isn't worse. And the idea that you could get a kid who may be a genius in a given thing, but it's not part of the curriculum, and you put them in the school environment, the standardized school environment, where they're forced to learn this other curriculum, and that genius is never, not only is it not cultivated, it's never even recognized, and it's tamped down. And so then they get D's in the class instead, and you think that they're a derelict and they're not, and they carry that with them for the rest of their life, potentially in a worst case scenario, when they would have been a genius in a different society or a different case scenario, I think is a real thing. And so having the neighbor kid who can go into an environment and thrive based on her own strengths and or weaknesses, and our kid who can go into the environment and thrive based on the strengths and weaknesses, makes perfect sense, you know?
I mean, and
So
I know it's a full luxury, like having choice and or being flexible is a absolute luxury, and I
it
recognize
is
that. But
totally.
if you can be flexible, or if you can give something up just slightly, and you're exactly right, there's hybrid ways to do it. There's all kinds of ways to do it. What makes me sad is sitting here. It was I think 2 weeks ago, like August 12th or something. The it just hit summer in down here in Cardiff, basically, right? I mean, it was like these days you're fully June covered with gray. Most of July is gray. Summer starts in August. These kids are going back to school August 12th. Like everybody fell in love. It's not year-round schooling, but it might as well be. They're out mid-June and going back early August, and it keeps getting shorter and shorter
Yeah.
and shorter the summer. Like why are we doing this to kids? Why not give them like some freedom? And I know again, parents who work and all that, it's like a blessing, or parents who have full-time at the office jobs. What are you going to do with the kids? But still, I don't know. I think if you can be flexible and create an environment that your kid can thrive in. And if you can't, if you, to me, it's just a great way to do things.
I agree. And the part of the reason I wanted to bring it up was just to destigmatize exactly what you're talking about, because the idea of homeschooling has become so politicized
Yeah.
that it's like people just have strong opinions when you say the word. And it's like, no, it's not. I mean, some people are terrible at homeschooling their kids. So that exists as well, but it's not just universally bad, you know?
And I don't think it's universally a reaction to woke culture, right? Like, okay, I'm homeschooling now because they're going to be teaching that, that there's no such thing as male and female bathrooms at the school, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
or whatever. I'm sure there's a percentage of people who homeschool based on that kind of stuff, but it's not why I'm homeschooling. Like, it has
Right.
nothing to do with that. And I'm sure if somebody saw me and knew I was homeschooling, probably their initial thought now would be, oh, this guy's super anti-trans.
Exactly. Yeah. The idea too, just on the most cursory level of taking a kid and having them sit indoors, like you said, in the middle of summer,
In the
especially,
middle of summer.
is sit indoors in a classroom, thinking that that is going to stimulate any curiosity or intellectual curiosity, focus, any of it is
It's
insane.
insane. It's
It's
insane to me.
insane. I,
It's
as a grown ass man who has to sit indoors and work for a lot of hours in a given day, it's actually the death of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the scourge of all of my creativity and my ambition and all of it. It's going to tamp all of it down. So the idea of thinking that's a good thing for children is really backwards.
Again, if
So
you have the luxury to try something else, jump off the boat and try it because I mean, I don't know. I couldn't do it another way at this point. Like there's no way my kid would be thriving the way she is uh going to school. There's just not enough time in the day. Like there's not
I
enough time
think
or energy.
I think also if you look at the job market moving forward, as things become more and more automated and robots take over, AI takes over, training your kid to be one of the masses in the exact same way is training them to not have a job in the future because they are ultimately going to be replaced by a more efficient robot. So giving them an environment like you're talking about where they become creative and creatively a creative thinker and a critical thinker and a creative problem solver is the only option they have at having relevance in the modern job market, the future job market.
Sure feels that way to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you're going to get your PhD from MIT in mechanical engineering, then world's your oyster.
But you still need our help to find a date. Brutal times out there, man. All right. Well, speaking of which, I've got lots of work to do in the matchmaking realm of side of my job. So I think we should sign off after these 2 hours of the Grit podcast. It's been a
Super pod.
gargantuan show.
Man, gargantuan, but not big enough to get on Stab's list of podcasts.
How funny is that? I take it as a badge of honor.
So good.
Doing something
So
right.
good.
All right. Well, hey, great show. Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. If you want to get a hold of Chaz, find him on Facebook Messenger. And until next week.
Keep working.